Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mandela Archives. I mentioned a few weeks ago that I'm going to do the letter. We're doing now the letters of the Rebbe every week. We're learning from the Rebbe what the Rebbe's Rebbe has certain principles and certain ideas, and it's important to learn. So today I want to. Last week we spoke about somebody said about Atzvus depression. How depression, Atzvus is not a mitzvah, it's not an avera, it's not a sin, but it brings all the sins. Mikvah is not a mitzvah, but it brings all the mitzvahs, the Torah, it's b'tayr. So today I want to share with you another letter about depression that somebody wrote about depression. Or, I don't know if this is real. He wrote here that he's embarrassed to tell people, and he suffers from being embarrassed, and he's ashamed to speak about it to people. But now he wants to break himself, and he wants to tell the Rebbe, and he wants to do tshuva. And if a person wrote like that, he means it. Yotzim min halev. If it comes out from somebody's heart, nichnas al halev. So, and it bothers him, and it's always in his mind, and I guess he once and for all, he wanted to be open with the Rebbe and tell the Rebbe. We're talking here about a Frum Yid, and he writes what bothers him. He writes like this. He says, many times, he misses Krishma Shalamito. He goes to bed without saying Krishma. Sometimes. Also, he says, sometimes he gets up late and he dabbles without a minyan. He knows that a minyan is very important and he has time. Not that he has to go to work. He has time. But he just, laziness. He doesn't say the word lazy. Then he says, sometimes he speaks in davening, not that he wants to speak in davening. He speaks in davening because somebody sits next to him and he speaks and you're not allowed to. He feels guilty. Sometimes, he's not careful. He wastes a lot of time. And even Lashon Hara, he says, he knows that what Lashon Hara brings is one of the worst things is to speak Lashon Hara that has an effect on him, on the one who he speaks to, and about somebody else. But it's not that he wants to speak. People are sitting, talking, so he also talks. He forgets, but he feels guilty. Not that he bedavke speaks Lashon Hara. And this reminds me, I think it was by the Rebbe Rashab. Chofetz Chaim asked, how come, Chaim is very much in Lashon Hara, by Bochrim, by Chabad Bochrim. I think that I remember my Schapiro said, by Chabad Bochrim, they're very careful in their beard, not even one hair. It's very important, a beard. But when it comes to Lashon Hara, no, sometimes they're not as careful as having a beard, as not touching a beard. That's right. But by Lashon Hara is minatayr. It says it's a isur. A beard is, according to some people, you can shave, whatever. So I think that Rabbi Rashab answered him, when a person speaks Lashon Hara, does he actually sit down and he says, let's speak Lashon Hara? No such a thing. Nobody makes a time to speak Lashon Hara. You sit and you talk, so you forget in the middle, you say a word. But you don't make a time. But the beard, you get up in the morning, where, as we spoke a few weeks ago, Shivisi Hashem l'negdi somid, God is in front of you, and you stand in front of a mirror with a machine or with a whatever, and you cut your beard. You're making a time. So maybe in halach, probably halach is different. That's what I heard sometime. But this person says he speaks Lashon Hara. And sometimes he eats, and he forgets to bench, not bread. He says cake or water. He doesn't make a bracha achrayni. He goes. I mean, it bothers him. He doesn't want push negelwasser. He writes near his bed. He something he used to. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he doesn't. But because he's a frumit, so he wants to do, and it has it in his mind. I mean, this is the kind of questions that Rabbi had. Rabbi had different kind of questions. This is the question, and I'm sure if he has this question, I'm sure other people that are listening now also probably have this problem. They speak in shul, or they don't answer Yom Rabbi. So the Rebbe answers like this. First, what the Rebbe says, "Pikud Hashem Yishorim Misamche learn Torah, and you should learn Igeres Tshuva in Tanya." And then the Rebbe says, then the Rebbe says something which is the first time I see it. The Rebbe says, "Look in Hayom Yom, and this date." So here I wrote down, the Rebbe didn't write down the whole Hayom Yom because that's an Hayom Yom. But I wrote down what the Rebbe answered him, look in Hayom Yom. And this will help. The Rebbe says like this. Oh, he also says here, besides the Geras HaTshuva, you should learn the halachas in Shulchan Aruch. Okay. It says in Hayom Yom, man's life is dependent on the air around him. Without air, he cannot live. And the quality of life is dependent on the quality of air. This is Hayom Yom. In an atmosphere of Torah, Sviva, Torah mitzvahs, there is healthy life. Person lives in a Sviva, healthy life. In a godless environment, life is diseased. And one is constantly threatened with the possibility of being stricken with contagious maladies. The first general step in healing is to purify the atmosphere. Purification of the air is the task of every person familiar with Torah and Torah literature, and is affected through the letters of Torah. When reciting words of Torah while in the store, or walking in the street, or riding a subway, one cleanse the air. Everyone knowledge in Torah must have some Torah memorized with him, Chumash, Tilim, Mishnayos, and Tanya. That's what the Rebbe writes. So, in other words, the Rebbe is telling, this is what says Hayom Yom. Now, about having always Tanya or Mishnayos or Tilim in your mind, which much mentioned, that I think the Rebbe said it in Hayom Yom somewhere, that when a person walks in the street and he doesn't have Tehillim in his mind, or he doesn't have Mishnayos or Tanya or Chumash or whatever, then the ground starts saying to him, he says the word bulach. Bulach means bum. He said, you bum, what right do you have to step on me? If you have Torah, or if you have Chumash, Tilim, Tanya, whatever, then you have a right, you're higher than me. But if you don't have that, what right do you have to step on me? I mean, this is what it says there. So that all times and in all places, he will be able to think and utter the holy letters of Torah. And when you will do this, you'll get, I guess, that's it. Then the Rebbe said, you'll get rid of depression, which the Yetzer Hara pulls you. And that will bring you b'simcha. So the answer to the person, the people that feel guilty of certain things, they should always know, they should start having things bal peh, learning bal peh. Oh, you go to business, or you go to the store, he says, or you go to anywhere, always have something, think about these things, and that will help you. And this is an eitzah. Now this reminds me, I used to teach in the Yeshiva of Brooklyn. And there was a person, he wasn't a Rosh Yeshiva, but he was a Maggid Shir in higher classes, a big London. And he once called me over, and he says to me, he says, I need to talk to you very, very serious. And I'm talking about from a Yid. He has to talk to me. He has to go to the Rebbe, and he has to talk to the Rebbe. He has a problem. What's the problem? Problem is that he has fakes in Emunah. I'm talking about a from a Yid. Talking about a Yid of London. And a mishpacha, a from kinder, everything. But he says the truth. He says, so I said, why don't you ask your Rosh Yeshiva? So he says, no, something like that, you have to talk to the Rebbe. Anyways, I couldn't get an appointment, of course, years ago. So I told him to write a letter. He wrote a letter. He gave it to Rabbi. I gave it to Rabbi Groner. And every day he used to come to me, ask, there's no answer. After a week, he got an answer. Rabbi Groner called me up. So the Rebbe answered him a few things. Number one, and I told him, does he drink Chol of Yisrael? That's number one. Number two, always memorize things. Always think, memorize Torah, Mishnayos, Tilim. Always have that wherever you are. And that will help. Anyways, I gave him the answer. What helped was the Chol of Yisrael. He says, I'm a London. He says, he never saw such an answer. And then he says, he looked up somewhere in Psabahalten Medrash that if you have Sfekis in Emunah, see if you drink Chol of Yisrael. Moshe Feinstein said you can drink Chol of Stam, so he's not so careful. But Chol of Yisrael, he says, I'm amazed that the Rebbe is such a great Gaon that he knows that Medrash, or that Bahalten Medrash. That's what impressed him. And he started to learn the Rebbe's Likutei Sichos. Why? Because what impressed him is what? Because the Rebbe knew this makir of Hollywood he never saw. Anyways, when I met his wife later, his wife says there's a big change in the husband. He was depressed. Now he looks happy. So anyway, so there's always eitzes, but the Rebbe, there's always eitzes, there's advice, what the person should do. So we see from all these answers that the Rikki is a mensch shall sein b'simcha, and when a person is b'simcha, simcha is poyes gathered, and we should follow the what the Rebbe writes. In Mitzvah Hashem, next week I will continue our weekly program. Thank you.